When you're a jet, you're
So I wonder who's going to be sitting next to me in a couple months.
I'll be sharing that here momentarily.
Oh, really?
Calling the meeting of the Ann Arbor Downtown Development Authority to order for the November 3rd meeting. Susan, would you please call the roll?
with all due deference to my chair, this is actually the November 4th meeting.
Oh,
That's
excuse
okay,
me.
because
Behind the times.
it still feels like summer, so it's not any fault. I'm going to go through the roll call. Bob Gunzel.
Here.
Roger Hewitt.
Here.
Rick Luff. Here. John Lowenstein. Here. Al McWilliams. John Mowat.
Here.
Rishi Narayan. Keith Orr.
Here.
Steve Powers.
Here.
Sandy Smith. Here. John Split. Phil Weiss.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. First on the agenda is audience participation. We're flip-flopping a little bit here. I think first we have Bill Kinley, who's going to speak for the ARC. Bill, good to see you.
Thanks, Roger. Good to see you. Good to see everyone here.
Okay. You do have 4 minutes, and I'll give you a signal when you're at 1 minute.
Signal. Give me the hook. And I'm actually going to read some from notes because if I don't, it will take me 20 minutes. So, just introduction for folks that don't know me. I'm the owner of the Phoenix Company, contractors and developers and property owners. We own 3 buildings in the Downtown Development Authority District: the Schwaben Building, Phoenix West Building, and South Main Market. I am a Downtown Review Board member. This property is not, we're going to be talking about, is not in the DRB district. It's in a historic district. But I was a member of the task force that developed the guidelines. I'm familiar with what their goals are. I'm a longtime DDA member from Ypsilanti, between 10 and 15 years running. Off that now, but I know what your responsibilities are in guarding the public's money. I'm also a member of the ARC's Board of Directors and co-chair of its renovations committee. So if Vanna could put up my first slide. I'm here to introduce you to a timely and exciting project that we have in mind for the ARC. As you know, the ARC recently purchased its venue on South Main as a condominium. We're in the process of developing upgrades to a master plan for upgrades to its interior and exterior. We understand that the DDA is developing guidelines for potential grants to enhance the exterior of downtown properties. We have a great opportunity to impact the downtown Ann Arbor streetscape, and we hope the DDA can help us make that a reality. So what we have here is the current facade from the ARC. I will say I don't believe it adds to the Main Street unique identity. It was developed over 20 years ago. It's very anachronistic in a way in the fact it has oak and sandblasted glass entry doors, a curved awning which doesn't project too much, and it really is not an identifiable spot as an entertainment venue as we think it should be. It doesn't convey the international renown that the ARC enjoys, as is recognized in several awards that have been given to Ann Arbor as a contributing element. It appears closed and private. You really can't see in. There's glass there in a very small showroom window, but you can't see anything of what's going on. So what does it communicate? Is it a restaurant that's in there? Is it a religious enclave, the ARC? Should we be going in 2 by 2 in that long line? What we want to propose is, next slide please. This will look at basically the same view. And forget, if you will, the blue color. That's just there for contrast. But this is the new, as in our minds, proposed ARC entry. The door that's now used as the ARC entry door is in that little narrow slot there. It will no longer be the primary entrance for the ARC. It's used as an entryway to get to the elevator, which accesses the ARC and melange. That will still be open as a passageway, but will be replaced by entry doors in the center. You'll see here a fairly significant marquee, not a massively lit up, but is that a minute left or a minute?
a minute.
Oh, I can talk fast. All right, so we have a marquee that projects a fair amount into the walkway. We think that provides a unique entry identity. Awning also provides shelter and lighting. Let's move to the next one that's closer, since I'm talking past my limit already. What I'd like you to see is the entry doors. There are 4 glass doors. We understand the guidelines of all of downtown, in particular DRB, ask for transparency. We have shot blasted lower part showing entertainers and audience, provide a sense of what's going on inside, but the dimension we can see over top that. There'll be alcoves at the side showing future and current attractions, and we think that gives a lot of dimension that is missing and focus on that part of the block. The context of this is important also in all the downtown development guidelines. This entryway is more in keeping with all the entryways on that block. We there?
We're there.
We're there. We want to bring a unique element to downtown. We certainly hope that you'll be able to support us, and we look forward to seeing what your final guidance is and developing and submitting a proposal to you. Next in line is Mary Ann James, may pick up on some of the things I wasn't able to get to.
Okay.
Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much.
No, I'm not his point.
Okay.
So thank you, DDA board members. We appreciate this opportunity to be here and invite the DDA to join the ARC in this impactful project. The design that Bill shared, as he mentioned, is part of a larger initiative, and that is the purchase and renovation of the ARC's music venue at 316 South Main Street. Total project cost of acquisition and renovation is $3 million, and the renovation portion is $1 million, of which this entryway is $250,000. Given that the ARC's mission is about enriching the human spirit through music, it's not surprising that the majority of the renovation is directed toward improvements that enhance the patron experience inside the ARC. However, as a property owner, the ARC now has the opportunity to be a leader in the downtown community in a whole new way, and we can leverage this permanence for lasting impact. Factor into property ownership the fact that we are the only dedicated entertainment venue on Main Street, and factor in the ARC's stature as a landmark institution deeply rooted in Ann Arbor's identity. And this project takes on a significance beyond just updating a doorway. There are 50,000 patrons who pass through the ARC's doors each year. There are hundreds of thousands of pedestrians who pass by those doors. This is a transformative project designed to enhance the pedestrian experience by creating pedestrian interest and amenity, improve the streetscape and add to the visual life of the neighborhood, reinforce the ARC as a key element of downtown Ann Arbor's unique identity, and highlights the mix of downtown uses and users. If that all sounds familiar, it should. The ARC and the people involved in this project are very familiar with the DDA's development plan, and we've consulted it early and often. It's very much integrated into the project's design concept and elements. The ARC has also consulted with other key downtown stewards, including Maura Thompson of the Main Street Area Association, Jill Thatcher of the city and the Historic District Commission, city staff members regarding how the signs may play into everything, and our own partner in the building, Dr. Reza Rahmani. He is 2/3 owner of this condominium. We're 1/3, and by our bylaws, the majority will have to give approval to any common area element change. Everyone we've consulted has expressed early support for the design and how it addresses the components that they're involved with. As I mentioned earlier, the total cost of acquisition and renovation is $3 million. To date, the ARC's capital campaign has raised $2 million, the largest fundraising effort in its history. These gifts and pledges are from corporations, foundations, and private donors, and essentially have covered the acquisition costs. The campaign continues as the fundraising mechanism for the ARC's $1 million master plan for improvements. We anticipate these improvements will need to be phased over time, as dictated by cash flow and by any restricted gifts that are assigned to any part of that project. Ideally, the ARC would like to be able to kick off our renovation effort with this entry project. The broad impact it will have and the statement it will make to the community about the ARC and our commitment to downtown Ann Arbor is a great way to begin. We invite the DDA to make this vision a reality by joining the ARC as the funding partner of the entryway with a $250,000 commitment, which could be payable over 2 to 3 years. The ARC does have financing options that would make that possible for us to complete this, even if funding was spread over time. The ARC would be honored to recognize the DDA's support both at the first floor entry and on our donor wall on the second floor alongside other donors such as Ford Motor Company Fund, DTE, the Towsley Foundation, Beer Foundation, and many community supporters. We have some information for you to take away today. We also look forward to submitting a full proposal, and we'll be happy to answer any questions or have further discussion along the way. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Thank you. Good timing. Is there any other audience? I think Karen Farmer? Yes. The Carytown Association?
Yes. Hi, my name is Karen Farmer. I actually work for Carytown Market and Shops as the property manager. I've been doing that for 13 years. But I'm here representing the Carytown District Association as a board member. I'm also going to read from paper, mostly because my least favorite quality is public speaking, and I think that's why I got nominated to talk to you all today. We just wanted to let you know that the Carytown District Association will be submitting a grant proposal to the DDA to help fund the mission of our association, which isn't too far off from what the DDA does. We also want to help our staff, and to help staff our association. We are interested in securing this grant so that we can keep up with the other areas, to keep up with the growth that is happening in our neighborhood and the growth within the DDA. Our role in the DDA is unique in the sense that we are in a historic neighborhood with family homes, businesses, merchants, grocery stores, the farmers market, the arts, and a public school. It is also unique in the sense that it does not have a major revenue stream like the other 3 area associations. We want to point out that the revenue acquired in the other areas goes towards the salary for an executive director and additional staff in some cases to help fulfill the mission and carry out the wishes of their board. While we've been able to get by over the years with in-kind sponsorships from board members taking on more, and with private businesses paying for advertising and other needs that we need, it's not enough. As downtown Ann Arbor continues to grow, the Carytown District Association wants to support that growth and be mindful and purposeful about keeping the important aspects that make Ann Arbor a unique part of the growing Ann Arbor. For example, for many years, all 4 area associations would regularly meet and coordinate events, schedules, and resources to help with the overall plans and promotions for Ann Arbor. There are many things that make Ann Arbor unique, but one of them is the passion that our residents, community members, and businesses have towards creating an equitable, friendly, artistic, and cutting-edge town atmosphere and climate. As we grow, we think that it is ever more important for the 4 area associations to work together on supporting each other's visions and the vision of Greater Ann Arbor. Although we have a very dedicated board operating without a staff, we all have full-time jobs that do not make it possible for us to meet regularly with the other associations and agencies or to do much of the work that is necessary to move an organization forward. Our desire is to hire a person to help fulfill the vision and mission of our board and to be the face of our association in meetings and tasks when we are not able to do so as board members with our other jobs. We look forward to leading the charge on bringing back a cohesive and collaborative working group among all 4 area associations and the DDA.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
We have one more slot. Would anyone else like to address the board? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to next. Reports from city boards and commissions. Ray Detter, the Downtown Area Citizens Advisory Council.
First, I want to invite you again to the dedication and celebration of the final 4 exhibits of the Downtown Ann Arbor Historical Street Exhibit Program. That's next Tuesday, November 10th, 5 o'clock p.m. The speakers at that dedication will be Chris Taylor, our mayor, John Heefja, Ingrid Sheldon, Susan Pale, and Ken Fisher, as well as myself, picking up the ends of it and getting to all those people that need to be recognized. We'll all be waiting for you in front of the sidewalk planters on North University, where the exhibits are being located. We got approval for the city on that. They'll be installed within the next couple of days. And at that particular location, we have the displays on the theme of town and gown in Ann Arbor. And I mentioned before, a book lover's town, books, music, 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 remembering Drake's, and also the University Musical Society and the May Festival. And I think I mentioned to you that Tibble's family is all coming from California and Florida, in order to be honored because, of course, their family were the ones that ran Drake's for years. Past and present donors, as well as invited guests, including members of the staff and also all of you in the DDA, will then walk across State Street to a festive celebration. And it's going to be festive. It's going to be designed in that particular way. It's going to be fun with hors d'oeuvres and drinks, music, possibly dance, and the 100-year-old Nichols Arcade. And please join us from 6 to 8 on next Tuesday evening. Last night's CAC meeting, I want to talk a little bit about that, was held in the City Council chambers in the midst of the usual election turmoil. There were 6 Huron and Skyline High School students that joined us to hear a discussion of 3 items last night. The planned apartment development between Sloan Plaza and Campus Inn, the future of the library lot, and our position on downtown parking. CAC members, Old Fourth Warders, and Sloan Plaza residents continue to meet with the core group that's building that particular project, including tours. And we include in our meetings tours of beautiful Sloan Plaza units that will be impacted by the new structure. We are pleased that developers will be meeting with the city's design review board on the 18th, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're even more pleased that an hour and a half before that meeting, they'll be meeting with us once again to discuss the nature of what it is that we all agree on that the project's going to be. And they've also agreed to appear twice before the design review board with regard to the nature of their recommendations. At our meeting last night, we then moved on to a discussion of the future of the library lot. Alan Haber was there. He had asked to be there to speak, along with Mary Hathaway. And we made clear that we were not supportive of turning all of the library space into a public park. But we were insistent that the 2 remaining developers provide a 12,000 square foot public plaza. Our packet included, for last night's meeting, a letter from First Martin Corporation with regard to Liberty Plaza. And that letter actually asks for the combination, the connectivity that's necessary on that particular site with regard to the library, Lake Transit Center, the houses, and also Liberty Plaza. And currently it doesn't have that. And finally, on the 3rd item, what we did is we discussed again the whole nature of parking the downtown. We totally support the DDA's position with regard to providing alternatives to bringing cars into the downtown. But until that's done, I'll tell you that in terms of the project that's going in next to Campus Inn, they started with 1 floor parking. We insisted that they had 2, so they have added 2, and we agreed last night that we're going to ask them for 3. Because all the conditions and problems that exist there with regard to being adjacent to a historic district and limited parking, and also what they're going to do in eliminating the parking with Campus Inn simply calls for more parking underground on that site. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Next, any communications from DDA board members?
Yeah, I wanted to state for the record my interest in the ARC. I've been on the board of directors for several years, continue on the board of directors, and also on the capital campaign committee. And as I say, I want to put that on the record, and I will be looking towards my colleagues on this board and our attorneys about what level, if any, I can participate in discussion and or decision making.
Thanks, Rob. Okay.
I too have a conflict for the architects working with the ARC, Mitchell Mowat, and so sort of along those lines, I recuse myself from discussions about it.
I agree. I have a conflict, but I'll be cycling off the ARC's board at the end of this fiscal year. So.
Okay. We've had some preliminary discussions that we may not actually be taking the matter up until January.
Yeah, I'll be off the board then.
Keith.
I have no direct interest in the ARC in that sense. I just wanted to make a transportation-related announcement, but it doesn't really have to do with DDA business, and that's just the great news that last night Scioto Township approved transportation millage by a pretty wide margin. It was a grassroots campaign, and they won 65%. And it's great news for the DDA because it means that transit is going to be going out much further west, and it means that there's more opportunities for people to take the ride in as opposed to their single car to downtown. So it's great news for the DDA as well.
Steve?
3 items. Tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock, there's a public opportunity to meet the 3 police chief candidates. I know with the DDA's keen interest in public safety, quality of life issues in the downtown, it would be an opportunity for DDA board members, staff to meet the 3 candidates in an informal, just drop-in setting, 7 to 8, I believe.
Is that City Hall?
At City Hall.
67. It's a city council meeting.
I'm sorry, yeah, 6 to 7. The next item, the Library Lane development proposals that are the Downtown Citizens Advisory Council Chair referred to. There is an open house for those this evening from 5 to 9 at City Hall. Again, an informal opportunity for people to drop in, learn more about the proposals, and give feedback on the proposals regarding any aspect of the proposals that you might have an interest in, such as the plaza, the open space, the density, the types of uses.
And where's that at?
And that's also at City Hall, first floor, the lobby, atrium area, from 5 to 9. And then finally, this is my last meeting as a DDA board member. It's been a privilege to work with you. I know the public does not appreciate and understand the amount of time that you put in as volunteers and the leadership that you provide for the downtown, not only on the big aspirational items that do get the attention, but also the smaller caretaker items that add so much to the quality of our downtown. It's been a real privilege. I also want to thank the support of the DDA staff, in particular Susan, who I work with very closely, and we are fortunate as a city, as a DDA, as a community to have Susan being part of our downtown and part of our city. Certainly that was reinforced for me at our recent opportunity to attend a conference and learn more about other downtowns in the country. The challenges and opportunities that we have here, so many other communities would be, they would be thankful to have the challenges and opportunities that we have. They would be overjoyed to have those. I have spoken with the mayor, and the mayor has asked Tom Crawford, who is going to be the interim city administrator, to take my place on the DDA board. So you'll be seeing Tom at your next meeting. And thank you, and it's been a real privilege to work with you.
Thank you, Steve. I think I speak on behalf of the whole board. It's been a pleasure to work with you.
Thanks.
I have one final thing. The Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners is looking for citizens to volunteer for positions on the new Washtenaw County Economic Development Coordination Committee as a result of the combining of the CBBs. And one member that they like would represent the DDA, and I would like to volunteer for that unless anybody else has an interest. And if not, I just have to submit an application.
Sounds great to me.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Susan.
So those are both good segues. We have also a request to the DDA that a member of the board volunteer herself or himself to serve on a newly formed city task force to work on the Greenway. We've had some participation in the past. I've been asked to get a name to the city, they hope, this week. So if some of you would consider it, we can answer any questions you might have. It would be great to have a DDA participant. I also want to let you know that this morning I attended and actually was asked to participate in a Spark Roundtable, CEO Roundtable. And the focus of the discussion, which had about 40 or so CEOs from around our region speaking, was the challenge of talent attraction and retention. We heard a little bit about this challenge, including things like affordable housing. Today, there was a lot about downtown, and I'll just put it out there. Some of the concern is that the business community has not been as vocal about things like parking, that they feel that they need to speak more with our community around that. That is, they feel a great deal of pride in what went forward last year, this millage that helped gain us more transit in our region. There still is an ongoing need to look at that piece of infrastructure called parking. So I'm representing on their behalf that there is this dialogue going on, and that many of these CEOs, many of whom are located in our downtown, they're going to look for ways to involve themselves with the next administrator, the new council as they take their seats, and certainly with us. So I'll bring that to you as I know more. And then the last item is with the indulgence of our chair, I'd like, if I could, to follow a tradition that the DDA has followed for many years. In fact, back to where I began, which is that we always thank our outgoing board members with a resolution of support. And this is not on the agenda, so I'm asking your indulgence to add this item for the board's consideration.
Point of order, point of order.
Yeah, we're not listening.
Pass that around.
He's turning
Okay.
red. Wow.
So I'll read it as this is being passed around. It's a resolution thanking Steve Powers. So whereas Steve Powers generously contributed dedication, time, and energy to the Ann Arbor Downtown Development Authority since joining our board in 2014. Whereas Steve Powers brought great intelligence, a strategic understanding, and quiet leadership to the DDA board. Whereas Steve Powers helped foster a collaborative and supportive culture at the city, which helped to strengthen the connections between DDA and city staff. Whereas Steve Powers regularly made the time to hold meetings with downtown stakeholders, often walking the downtown sidewalks and the alleys to hear about their challenges and their opportunities, and to learn about how the city could better meet their needs. Whereas Steve Powers is granted permanent rights to cheer for the Wolverines, which are represented by a fierce and noble beast that eats ducks and beavers. Resolved, the Ann Arbor Downtown Development Authority, on behalf of the downtown and the community, thanks Steve Powers for his great service and his abundant contributions to the downtown, and indeed to the community as a whole, through his work on the Ann Arbor Downtown Development Authority Board. Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. Approval of the minutes of the October 2015 meeting.
Second.
Support. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Subcommittee reports. Partnerships and Economic Development Committee. Joan and Al, I guess it's Joan.
Yeah, Al is conveniently gone, so I will report on this. The main thing that we did at our last meeting was to fine-tune our grant requirements, and so our grant policy. And so I would like to first, it's in your packet, and I'd like to first move that resolution.
Your support?
Okay, so it sets forth criteria to help us with grant requests. We had, it was really a great meeting because since Al's not here, I can talk about how great he is. He kind of put things together in a way that made everything make a lot more sense than what we had set forth initially. And so let me go over some of the highlights of this grant policy. So the way it's set out is that, it of course states that any request has to fall within our mission over here. But then to be eligible for a grant, we set forth things that a project must do. So these are things that it's a threshold. Documenting a gap in the marketplace, that's always been something that's been really important in any of our other kinds of grants like brownfield or TIF grants. Act as a catalyst for revitalization, have a significant impact to investment activity, have additional funding sources. This was really important. We discussed this a lot, that we don't want to just dole out money, it has to be something that can be leveraged. And then be well-planned and have financially sustainable management and maintenance. And that's also crucial, that before anybody comes to us for any kind of grant, they have to show that it's something that can be sustainable. And then once you pass that threshold, we have some other criteria that are based on a list. So these aren't, these are kind of additional criteria that we will eventually look at. And so these are some of the things that we've had before in some of our policies. And engaging pedestrian experience, reinforcing downtown's identity, strengthening commerce, reusing buildings, strengthening the artistic, cultural, historical part of downtown. So all of those things are things that we'll look at. And then we have kind of the more legalistic language of that we can pay a grant over time. They will automatically expire if they're not used within the time period, that sort of thing. So that language is really very similar to what we've had in the brownfield and TIF language. But the first page there about kind of the threshold requirements and then the other sort of elective criteria is something that's a little different than what we've done before with those other kinds of grants.
Sandy?
I have two suggested changes to this, and I'm going to take them individually, two completely different topics, although they're adjacent to each other. The DDA grant process, which is on page 2 of the grant, which is
16 in the
thank you,
packet.
16 in the packet. First paragraph. The DDA has determined that it can receive grant applications all year, but has scheduled a review of grant applications. And I'd like to say, instead of twice a year, just say at least once a year.
Where's that, Sandy?
So, DDA grant process, the first sentence.
Oh, I got you.
So rather than mandating that we meet twice, I would like it to say at least once a year. And then crossing off beginning on October 1st and March 1st to say with a deadline for written submission, November 30th. And I would like to move that, as I think it's substantial and not necessarily something that's friendly, and I'd like to have discussion.
I think we have to, vote on, okay, so,
I need
let's see.
support.
You're moving the amendment, and is there support?
I have a question. So are you saying that all of the grant applications for a 12-month period would be submitted, and that we will at least talk about them once, but maybe more than once? Or are there multiple times where they can submit if there's going to be additional more than once?
Multiple times that they could submit. So if they did not get it the first time, they could resubmit.
So if we're going to
Question
meet
is?
more than once a year?
So what I thought was, rather than setting us up for 2 granting cycles,
Okay.
to set it up so that have 1 granting cycle, so we meet at least one. Now, when somebody comes in and there's a home run, and we all want to address it, and it's not within the cycle, and we have the funds to do this, or the will to do this, or the will to do this, then we could do that, if that makes sense. Somebody could be time sensitive. So that's why I say at least once, but I don't want to set us up to be in a twice a year cycle to do this.
So for instance, somebody could come in March or April and we would say, well, we're done with this fiscal year, but we could start a new fiscal year in July if they were time sensitive. We could take action somewhere between July 1st and, November 30th.
I just feel like that opens it up again.
So point of order, we need a support to.
Oh, yes.
Discussion.
That's
Support.
Support, okay. That's the amendment. Is there further discussion? Kate?
I don't know, I kind of like the fact that we're limiting it a little bit just because we are having more and more of these coming in, and you know, given that it's twice a year, there's never more than 6 months. If something is so time sensitive that it's essentially an emergency at that point, you know, we can always bring a resolution for any sort of project that the DDA deems as a project. It just wouldn't be going through the traditional grant process. So I think we can, you know, cover ourselves that way, but to have a normalized type of process is kind of what I like about this. So I probably will be supporting that.
John?
I look at it the other way around. I like the twice a year cycle because I think it maybe opens up more opportunities for folks looking for small grants that they want to act on, and allows us to look at multiple grants together in a quicker time than waiting a whole year. I mean, my concern would be if we wait a whole year, somebody submits in July, but we think we hear that somebody else is going to come up with something, you know, 7 months later, you know, those sorts of things that we just would stockpile things. So I tend to prefer the way it's written.
I'm not sure that there's enough funds, and I think that there's a lot of demand to do this twice a year. So I think to be realistic about it, we set up a second year. The first we've already got 3 or 4 requests in, at 4 requests at 5 times the amount of money that's in the budget that we have. So the second round, we could do it, but we would inevitably be opening up the coffers, open up the budget and examine whether or not we want to do this. So I'd like to do this. We've never done it this way with a deadline. I'd like to just say, at this point, let's do it once and see. And if we find that we've missed opportunities and things like that, then by all means address this. And that's why I guess instead of saying once a year, I said at least once a year, which means we can always go back. But until we know what we're dealing with, as soon as we put this out there, it's not going to be 4, we're going to have 40 requests. I mean, we can have a lot of people, and that money will dissipate extremely fast.
Steve?
I don't mean to put Joan on the spot, but I will. I wonder if the partners, subcommittee chair or vice chair or spokesperson has any.
Well, I think that
regarding
when we discuss the time periods within the committee, it was really uncertain about what would work best. I think we like the idea of having certain times, and we put it as 2 cycles just so that we would, just because it was convenient to say 6-month periods. But I don't think within the committee, we didn't discuss just doing it once a year, so I don't think that there was any discussion against that.
Well, the second part of Sandy's amendment, though, talks about this at least initial cycle, which would be by the end of November. If you leave the language the way it is, October 1st and March 1st, there's been no official submission, so we would be not do anything until March under the present language. So I think at least that last part, if, as we talked about in committee, we wanted to try to get in the applications within the next month or so, and it would go over to the new year, and we would have the opportunity to look at 2 budget years, the existing budget year and the one that was coming up. So I'm not speaking necessarily to once or twice a year. I'm just saying, how do we deal with this initial phase?
Bob, are you saying then with that comment that if we do get 40, that we would look at approving some in this fiscal year and some for the next fiscal year? Is that what you meant by that comment?
No, I was thinking more of the dollars available. If you did it on this first cut, we could look at 2 fiscal years. We wanted to in committee, we talked about doing some of these grants over a period of time. On the other hand, we don't want to necessarily take all future dollars, which would prohibit future boards from doing grants.
Right.
But in the committee, the idea was that at least for this initial period, we would have 2 budget years we could look at and think about what it meant for a 2-year period. Again, not taking all the money from the coming budget, but having that opportunity. So I think Sandy's second part of your amendment covers that.
Yeah, I think the rationale was that we form our budget in the first in January and February. So if there are, as this year, a large number of grants, and we can then look at how much we want to budget for grants in the upcoming fiscal year. And the timing worked out quite well. We sort of worked backwards from that and giving staff time to review the applications and research them, present them to the board. They felt, the end of November, then they would have a month and a half in which to prepare them for a board's evaluation. And then through the finance committee, we can also decide what the budget should look like for grants for the upcoming fiscal year.
And I think, Sandy, correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea that we would meet at least once a year, that was what you had in mind. We won't meet at a really certain time, but the November 1st deadline would allow us to meet while we're forming the budget.
Exactly.
Any other discussion?
I'd just be curious to know if the staff have any comments about that, because you are the ones that deal with the requests.
So the challenge to give you guys, we have never had as many requests at one time, nor have we ever had as many large requests. This is unparalleled. So our challenge is less about these sort of details than just to be sure that we can get enough information to the board to make its evaluation the way you would need to. I think it's extremely helpful to have a deadline by which all information must be received so we can assemble things to get it to you so you can make your policy level decisions. There has to be some time for reflection to make sure if we don't have enough that we're getting information that does meet your need. And certainly the timing to match with what Finance Committee needs to do to assemble the budget is absolutely important. You need also time because dollars spent on grants are dollars not available for projects. And there needs to be a deliberation about how you are recommending resources be allocated. And we'll work with both sets of committees, however we decide to do it, but we need the time to get you what you need. That's something I would emphasize. We need the time so you can reflect on what you have.
I'd agree, we could give it a try, and if it doesn't work out, we can always change.
As always.
It's a
Yes.
start.
Yeah.
It's
It's
a
a
start.
starting point.
It's a start.
Yes. Any further discussion? All in favor of the amendment, as proposed by Sandy, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Any further discussion? All opposed?
No.
No. You get the nays on that?
Point number 2 is in the next sentence, and I would like to strike the no more than 4 minutes and perhaps merely say during public speaking times, because I kind of think that we might have eliminated one grantor who was clever enough to take back-to-back speaking pieces, and we've seen people do that before. So I think that, to be fair, no more than 4 minutes just needs to be out of there. And I would suggest just saying during public speaking times, which would let the grantors know when the appropriate time is to bring their proposals forward.
And that defines time too.
Right, they might be able to get 4 minutes, but that's, so, I think that's pretty simple. I don't know that that's considered friendly, but that's up to Joan.
It would be considered friendly to me. I'm just looking to see what we call it. Why don't we say during audience participation, because that's what we call it.
During audience participation.
Yeah.
So we would read, eliminate the no more than 4 minutes in parentheses and just say about the project during audience participation.
Or I was thinking project to the full DDA to regularly scheduled monthly board meeting during audience participation. Just add that to the end.
To the end, okay.
Get rid of parentheses altogether.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Question, why during audience participation? Why not during another spot on the agenda? By making an exception to our public comment time limit for grant presentations, would that not open the board up to
And
requests for
I don't know
others?
what I don't know what the discussion was at the meetings. I was not there, but I think that my complaint is during, or no more than 4 minutes.
Yes.
So,
Understood.
perhaps Joan can,
We didn't talk about it.
We could
We just said, you know, that they would make a presentation to the, it was just the idea of making a presentation to the entire board.
Then, how about if we just strike what's in parentheses and leave it, then we can schedule it any time during the board meeting for however long we deem it appropriate.
Yeah,
Does that work better?
I think that's fine. So we'll just strike the no more than 4 minutes, and we'll, if we need to, we might create a new position on our agenda, something like that. And that would be, I think we can do that with a friendly amendment, just striking the no more than 4 minutes.
Do we still have to vote on friendly amendments?
Yes, we are voting on all of them.
Okay. All right, so Sandy made the amendment to strike the 4 minutes, and who seconded?
Second.
Second, Steve.
and you seconded the primary motion, which you need to then approve this friendly. We're good.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, okay, so now we're voting on the friendly amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
We
Now,
can get
moving
a
on to-
hostile amendment.
I know there's much difference. Okay, moving on to the resolution. Is there further discussion?
Thank you, Joan.
Okay. No further discussion? We'll vote on the resolution to approve a DDA grant policy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes.
So furthermore, we had some time for some updates, and the council reps shared an update on the city administrator search process. And Councilmember Briere talked about the potential of moving the Arthur Miller House to Liberty Plaza Park. And Commissioner Peters shared lessons from the recent Michigan Association of Planners Conference that he went to, and those were pretty much our only partner updates. We will not have a meeting next week because it's Veterans Day and city policy is not to meet on national holidays. And so we are going to just have our next partnership meeting Wednesday, December 9th at 9 a.m.
Thank you. Next, Finance Committee, Marie?
Yes, we had, and I hope I don't butcher her name, Miss Kasparic. Is that correct? From Raymond presented the fiscal year 2015 DDA audit. It was a clean audit. There were no material deficiencies, errors, corrections, comments. Joe did a great job. He had it done early, and it was actually done 2 weeks prior to needing to be done. So, and everything went great. Questions were asked and answered, and the committee recommends the acceptance of the audit by the DDA board.
Okay, so here, we have a resolution to accept the audit?
Yeah.
So-
Page 18.
Someone like to move the resolution on page 18?
So moved.
Is there support?
Support.
Okay. Any discussions on the resolution to accept the DDA fiscal year 2015 financial audit?
Usually there's like that one page that says this is a clean audit.
It's
Why
in
did I-
the booklet.
Is it?
You can put an auditor's report.
I mean, I thought that was just about how we did the audit. I didn't see the sort of summary. It says, this is a clean audit.
In our opinion, the financial statements refer to well present fairly in all material respects.
Okay, all right. Just reads
Nothing
very
to
different, reads very differently than it has in the past, but that's okay.
Nothing to report.
It looked good to me in any case. I was just surprised by the sort of lack of what looked like executive summary that they've had in the past.
Any further discussion on the audit? Seeing none? Vote. All in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. And anything else, Marie?
The next meeting is Tuesday, November 17th from at 1 p.m. It's 1 week early due to Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Okay, capital improvements. John?
Thanks, Roger. I'd like to move the resolution on page 28 regarding approving funds for signal box arts installations. The highlights of this is, as folks know, we've already approved funds for supporting phase 1 of this project. The project has been very well received in the community. This is looking at expanding upon it for the second phase. The components of it include a grant from the Michigan Council for the Arts and Cultural Affairs, so they have thought well of this. And our grant would be for $50,000 in matching funds. The goal is to do an additional 34 boxes moving forward. Arts Alliance will administer the project as before, and we're looking at funding it out of fiscal year 2016 and 2017.
I believe we need support for your motion.
Support.
Any discussion?
So, not to say that this isn't a good and worthy project, because I think out of all the projects we've done, this I got and heard more positive comments about phase 1 of this than a lot of other things. My question more is on process, and that we have a grant in front of us that we're approving that is not going through the process that we just adopted. And I understand that it's coming from a very specific set of funds and not out of the funds that have been allocated in the budget. But I guess I would just like to hear the difference, why we would do it this way.
Keith, did you want to speak to that?
I just wanted to speak to it that I guess it doesn't bother me because it seems to me more of an extension of something we've already done, and we even talked about at the time that it was something we were going to extend if it was successful. So it doesn't strike me as I don't see a conflict.
So that is one of the reasons. The second reason is much of this is about blight and graffiti. So it was felt that this is part of what we're doing with part of our sidewalk initiative. And the third and perhaps most specific reason for the timing of it is the state grant expires by the end of November. So if we don't find a matching fund source, those dollars go, which is not to say we wouldn't necessarily want to increase the amount we might want to grant to the project. It's that the state thought highly enough about it that they found $22,500 for it. And it's ours to receive or ours to reject just simply because we want to go through a process. So I brought it to capital improvements, suggesting that as part of what we do at the sidewalk level, whether it's repairing brick or painting over graffiti, this felt sort of along those lines because these boxes are getting tagged. But if there is an interest in going forward as a grant process to save the Arts Alliance, that's the only change, is that we would lose $22,500 from the project, just for timing, not our timing, the outside funders' timing.
And in the future, do you see a grant like this going through the process that we just established?
I would look to the board to give me direction on that. this project specifically was about blight and about graffiti. I think it's the wishes of the board how you'd like to see us going forward with these kind of projects where we are working in collaboration with the Arts Alliance. Their role in this, by the way, is the call to artists. They put together the jury. Once the jury has made its recommendations, they facilitated the public process where the public gets to give input on which design. They then work with the vinyl company and measure each box, and then oversee the installation at each box. So they're doing all the administration of it. So we're basically paying them to do that work for us. It could be viewed as a grant, or it could be viewed that we're hiring them. I mean, it's really the wishes of this board how you'd like to view a project.
So, a better way to frame this perhaps is this is a DDA-initiated project versus necessarily a group coming to us and asking us for the money.
And that describes it exactly. I met with the Arts Alliance director a couple years ago. It came at a time when our Commission on Art in Public Places was not finding a way to get any public art in the public realm, and asked if she would allow me to brainstorm with her opportunities to bring art to the downtown. A short time later, I saw through all the downtown materials that I received this idea using vinyl, again, how we wrap the buses, and met with her a second time and pitched this idea to her and said, if I'm able to secure funding from the DDA, could you help us find some other funding? And at that point, she pitched it to the Arts Commission. It went its way, whichever way it went, and now the Arts Commission may or may not have the kind of funding available. But it began with my approaching the Arts Alliance and asking if we could initiate a way to get original artwork into the public realm. This is original artwork. This is not replication. And the artists receive, the majority of this money goes to artists honorarium. And it seemed a very effective way to help us do what I felt our community was striving to do, but maybe without, I'm trying to find a way to describe it. It seemed, again, as something other downtowns were doing. This is why we go to these best practice sessions like these conferences. And so I initiated this project and thought this might be a great way to accomplish the goal of supporting arts in the public realm. And at the same time, selfishly, these are blight magnets. I mean, these boxes are tagged, and if you look at the ones that we wrapped last year, not a one has been touched.
Well, and I'd like to just reiterate, I'm very positive on the project. It's just a matter of process and how it relates to what we just did. So thank you, Susan.
You bet.
So, Sandy, I would suggest I support that notion that many things moving forward would come in the form of a grant request. Whether, we have a threshold probably of size. There are certain things that are small enough that are within the executive director's discretion. But, things that approach any scale, I would certainly support the notion of capturing it within other things as we're evaluating. I think that's one of the key things we really need to do moving forward. We've got a limited amount of dollars.
Other discussion? All in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you. So at our last Capital Improvements Committee, we had our consultants, JJR Smith Group, who were we've hired for working on the street improvement projects at South U. And we had a presentation by them to get everyone up to speed on the street design manual and those elements that would be relevant to this project, and to talk through a little bit the process moving forward and timeline and so forth. The fun part was that we went for a field trip. We walked over there and we had great representation. I appreciate it. Quite a few people from the board came, along with staff and JGR representatives. And I thought it was very constructive. People actually walking the street, everybody sort of seeing what the existing conditions are. I learned a lot. I saw things that I've never seen before. It's amazing the difference it makes if you're actually looking for things. And so I'd like to think it was very constructive for the design team as they move forward. I think there were some ideas that came out of it that are really pretty exciting and positive. And a great way to get that project started off. I don't know if there are any other folks who went along who have anything they'd like to add.
I'll add that it was just amazing, like you said, to just actually see what help is needed down there. Like you said, we saw alleyways and stuff that I never knew existed. it was almost, to me, a little bit eye-opening, maybe depressing, to see that here we are in Ann Arbor and we have a lot of work to do down there.
Yeah.
So,
You know, say Amber, could I ask you, could you give us a real quick rundown on the process moving forward? A little bit of timeline?
Sure. I have to warn you that I've been out of the office and just arrived back about 10 minutes before this meeting. So I will do my best. Currently, they are doing the topographic survey, which is helped greatly by the weather. And tomorrow we will be on the sidewalk doing public outreach. And then the next step is for them to bring some preliminary ideas back to you folks and out to the public and to focus groups. And from there, we'll start narrowing it down. So then you'll narrow it down to 2 approaches and then refine a final approach.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Any questions? Our next committee meeting is Wednesday, November 18th at 11 a.m.
Thank you. Next operations, John Split's not here, so Keith,
I wasn't warned about this. I guess I should have been. Let's see, because, parking. I like that we provide parking. Well, it is the parking report, so it's actually
Do
kind of.
you have the parking report?
I do not. And it actually is much easier now to do
Page
this.
29, it's in your packet.
No, I mean the
The cheat sheet.
Oh,
the
the cheat sheet.
right.
Oh.
The all-important cheat sheet. So I can channel John Split, who is missing, I believe, his first board meeting ever.
That's what he said.
Yeah. So, let's see, where is that, page 29? And the nice thing about being forced into this situation is that the new parking report format is pretty darn easy. Because it actually, along with having all of the data to back it up, there is the sort of more plain English definition of what's going on with the parking operations. There were a couple of home football games in September that of course affects it. There was the homecoming block party on 10/9. And then the Halloween, the Main Street Area Association Treat Parade on 10/30. Meter bag waivers in September. AA Summer Festival on 10/1, when they were doing Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me down there. And of course the incredibly popular Pop X in Liberty Plaza. We took out 75 parking meters down along the Wall Street area. This was something that was neighborhood requested, first to put them in and then to take them out. So we continue to respond there. And it was largely through the city, I believe, the requests came. We had a discussion about, especially at the Michigan State game, how incredibly clogged downtown Ann Arbor got and the difficulty in not just getting around, but even more getting out of the parking structures. So there was some discussion about perhaps going, certainly for the big games where lots more people come in. The problem with Michigan State, of course, is that A, it's a big rivalry, and B, it's a rivalry with a very close by university, so many people come into town. What was the estimate? There were, how many people came into town not even going into the game?
More than were in the stadium.
Yeah, exactly. So it was pretty remarkable. But there was the suggestion of perhaps doing more of the 1 fee entry, because that at different structures, because that does help on the getting out. But with the way the streets were, even though the arms may have been open, there was no room to get on the street, so it made it very difficult. I guess victim of our success, right? What else was important? We did have our annual meeting with City Council about parking. Any highlights that you wanted to bring up about that? No. Okay. Let's see, maintenance and repairs. Thanks to great weather, that's certain things have been able to continue apace in terms of the weatherproofing or waterproofing in the various garages and the washdowns. So, anything else I need to do? Parking equipment, construction. The construction, is that a separate item here?
Susan's going to handle the construction part.
Okay. Well, I think that's the basics of the parking report. Moving on
We
to the...
point out on the last page that our parking revenues for the first quarter of this year versus first quarter of last year were up
Right.
6%, which is a good continued strong growth
Right.
in the parking system.
You had the information about the repairs going on in the garages, and just a note about the 4th and William garage. The stairs are now in place, the curtain wall is being constructed as we speak, and the handrail is going to be installed this week, because that's the plan anyway. So we're back on task, and you're starting to see what's taking shape. Any questions, let me know.
Okay, thank you.
And the next, is there anything else? No, next meeting is November 18th at 9 a.m.? Okay. 1 week earlier than usual, yes.
Executive committee meeting. Just discuss the agenda for today's meeting. Review today. Next, under new business, Susan.
So I stand before you as your DDA FOIA coordinator, and I am presenting to the board that we received an appeal of a FOIA fee of $224.76. It was charged to Mr. Dave Askins, responding to his October 7th FOIA request, in which he requested, 1, all records of invoices to the DDA for legal work from January 1, 2014 to the present. 2, all records of communications sent by or received by the DDA staff and board on the subject of posting a check register online from May 2014 to present. And 3, all records of communications received by DDA staff or board from and to Ryan Stanton from September 2014 to the present. As the DDA FOIA coordinator, it's my role, I took responsibility to estimate the cost to provide these documents, and I provided a cost estimate of $224.76 based on the factors that are specified in Section 4 of FOIA, which provides that a fee may be charged for the labor expended in searching, separating, and duplicating public records, for responding to a FOIA request, charging no more than the hourly wage of the lowest paid employee capable of performing those tasks. My estimate was that it would take 6 hours of work, and that's how I arrived at the $224.76. The actual cost to provide these documents was $263.42, which included an adjustment in the hourly labor cost and the amount of labor that it took to produce this. Mr. Askins responded to this, indicating he did not intend to pay the requested fee, and filed a new FOIA request seeking the documents outlined in categories 1 and 3 of his October request, but omitting the documents contained in category 2. His new FOIA request was granted, and those documents were provided to him. Mr. Askins was informed that he was still regarded as owing the fee related to his October 7th request, and he indicated that he wished to appeal that fee determination. Thus, I stand before you today to convey his appeal. Section 10A of the FOIA statute provides that a public body to which a fee appeal has been made may do one of the following. 1, waive the fee. 2, reduce the fee and issue a written determination indicating the specific reason for that. Or 3, uphold the fee. As your FOIA coordinator, I recommend the board determine that the fee should be upheld. Mr. Askins did not identify how the required fee exceeded the amount permitted under the DDA's FOIA policy or Section 4 of FOIA. But even if he had, the fee was calculated properly under the FOIA. There is no legal reason to reduce or waive the fee, and I believe that the appeal should be denied. So I have drafted for you a recommended resolution in response to this fee appeal.
Sorry. I'd just like to move the resolution.
Second.
Second? Okay. Discussion. Steve?
Just for everyone's understanding, this is before the board because the board serves as the appeal body for Freedom of Information Act requests of
Yes.
appeals of our FOIA coordinators' decisions.
Correct.
And just, I think you said it, but I just wanted clarification. So he did the FOIA, we did all of the work, and then presented him with the bill, and he said, I would pay it. So we did the work, but it actually wasn't given to him in the original form.
So.
And then he applied for only portions of that information. And I assume then we redid the calculation for that amount, or we're just waiting to stand by this one?
So with the first request, I provided an estimate because this was an extraordinary amount of time. Again, a very small staff, and this was a lot of time spent that we estimated would take to meet that. Subsequently, we received a new FOIA that coincidentally asked for 2 of the 3 items. And those were 2 things that were relatively easy to provide, both just getting into files. And so we provided that at no cost because it was relatively easy to provide. It is our goal to be as available to the public as possible, and that was a need that was easily met.
So, but the work was done for this?
For the first one,
right.
Yes.
Okay.
Roger, I think I'd just like to read the resolution because it wasn't in our original packet.
Sure.
Whereas an appeal has been taken by Mr. David Askins from the imposition of a fee of $224.76 for provision of documents requested by him in a FOIA request dated 10/7/15, and whereas Section 10A1A of the Freedom of Information Act requires that an individual appealing a fee determination identify how the required fee exceeds the amount permitted under the public body's available procedures and guidelines, or Section 4, and that Section 4 would be under indigency or something like that. And whereas Mr. Askins did not identify how the required fee exceeded the amount permitted under the DDA's FOIA policy or Section 4 of the Freedom of Information Act, and is therefore deficient on its face and subject to denial on those grounds alone. And whereas it appears that the board, even if the appeal is not deficient on its face, after considering the information provided by the FOIA coordinator, that said fee is within the requirements of Section 4 of FOIA regarding the items which can be taken into account for determination of such fees and the charge for the time expended in complying with the FOIA request, in that at least 6 hours were expended in reviewing and duplicating the required documents, and the hourly rate applied to this labor did not result in a fee which exceeded statutory requirements, it is resolved that the board upholds the fee and certifies that this determination is accurate and complies with applicable statutes and procedures.
Discussion.
Can I ask a question? In this, we're talking about the $224.76, if I understood you, and that was your estimate. If I understand correctly, the actual costs were $260 something?
The actual cost was $263.42.
So my question is, for future reference moving forward, are folks, which one are they obliged to pay? The estimate or the actual cost?
It is my understanding that the individual will be paying the estimate, and we are asking them to pay. In this particular instance, it came out a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
If the amount of time was much less, of course, we would modify downward to the actual cost.
Okay. So and would you foresee doing it that way in the future?
Yeah, and frankly, the more we do these FOIAs, the better and more accurate we are becoming and how much time it takes. So our estimate was almost spot on with what it actually took to do it.
Okay, thank you.
That begs the question, how frequently does this occur?
So I had a total of 4 FOIAs on my table at one time. So in the near term, we're seeing quite a few FOIAs. In many instances, if possible, we would like to direct people to our website, which has a very robust collection of documents, including budgets, minutes, a host of things. And so to the extent possible, we're hoping people will go to the website and not FOIA. But we are seeing a good number.
Mr. Powers, could you weigh in on what's happening at the city? Is that a similar, are you being kind of inundated also with the FOIA requests?
The cities tend to be more steady. The number, which is significantly higher, obviously,
Right.
tends to be steady, both in the general administrative types of requests as well as the police requests.
And is this similar to your processes at the city?
Yes. Yes.
Although in the city's case, the city has a FOIA coordinator and then appeals would be made to the administrator. So it's to the top administrative official. In our case, since our top official is the FOIA coordinator, the only place to appeal is to us.
And if I could, I was just corrected. The actual is what the individual would be asked to pay. Having done the work, we then provide to them the actual. And with the estimate, we are required under FOIA to allow them for a deposit opportunity, and that's where the estimate comes in.
Well, in that case, it seems to me we should make this the actual. If this is going to set some form of precedent of our expectations, I would propose that we make it the actual cost. If that's within, yeah.
So again, the correct number then is $263 and 42 cents.
Though have we already told him that the amount was going to be $224.76, not just an estimate, but we then said that's what we were going to charge him?
We said that is our estimate for the cost. He then subsequently submitted an appeal.
Okay.
So we are responding to the appeal.
Okay.
Which is 224.
By
Right.
raising.
So are we,
Sounds like we should
Well,
leave
the
it
only
at
point,
224.
right, I mean, the only point we have on here where it's listed as an amount, says it's an appeal, it's been taken from the imposition of a fee of that amount, and that amount is the amount that he was quoted, right?
I have with me Jeremy Kennedy,
Okay.
who is helping us to describe for you what we're doing here today.
Okay, thank you.
Jeremy works with Jerry in that office.
This particular FOIA request and the fee on this kind of came with a circuitous route. Mr. Askins submitted his initial request, as Susan indicated. Then when he was told what the fee was going to be and the deposit that was required, his response was, I don't want section 2 of this request, only give me section 1 and 3. The work at that point had been, for the most part, done. I think what remained was copying or scanning the documents to actually produce them to him. The reason the 224 number was left in there was due to the way the fee was calculated originally, and it turned out the numbers had to be calculated differently in addition to the extra time, and given Mr. Askins' change, it would have required considerable more time to start over as opposed to just pull it out, so we left the number the same. The actual time given the fees was $263.42, but there is no provision in FOIA that allows an appeal to increase the fee that's been charged to him. It can either leave it as it is with a written explanation, waive a portion of it with a written explanation, or waive it entirely and no explanation is required for that. In this case, because the error was in Mr. Askins' favor, we decided we're not going to ask. We can't appeal the fee. He can appeal, and
so your considered judgment is that we should leave it at 224?
I believe so. I don't believe Mr. Askins even complied with the requirements to properly appeal the fee. He didn't identify anything specific that was wrong with it. He simply said, I don't want to pay it, which, as anybody knows, is not a reason to say you're not going to pay something. The work was done, the documents are ready, and in my opinion, the withdrawal of the one portion of it and resubmitting it is simply playing games, and by not charging him for the second part, he's already gotten quite a break from the DDA.
So, are we comfortable leaving the number at 224.76 based on our legal recommendation? Is there further discussion?
Oh, I have a question to clarify with Mr. Kennedy. So is there a provision in the statute, if a fee is charged and that person doesn't pay it, then the next time that he makes a FOIA request, there's a kind of a penalty?
There is a provision in the Act that says if a deposit is going to be required going forward and you have not paid for a previous FOIA request, instead of requiring a 50% deposit before the documents are turned over to him or provided to him, you can require 100% deposit. In order to trigger that, it has to go 90 days without being paid. So if he doesn't pay the $224.76 within 90 days, any FOIA request after that where a deposit would be required or sought, we can require that he put up the full 100% of the estimate before anything is provided to him.
And there has been no deposit on this 224 against the 224?
There is not. He has not paid anything for this. It appears he is not going to pay anything towards this. We don't know. He has plenty of time to change his mind and to make the payment, but from correspondence we've received from him, it seems to indicate that he is going to pay the 100% deposit that for anything going forward if it would be required, and not pay the 224. Yes.
Have we taken deposits at all in the past?
We have not. Generally, many of our FOIAs are small enough that, again, we do our best to meet them. The only other prior FOIA that was asked for compensation had 12 items on it. And in that case, we asked for payment, and it's a rare occurrence that we get very large requests.
And in that case, we did not do a deposit?
We did not do a deposit. The FOIA rules have just changed as of July 1, 2014, so we're in a very different place than we were in the past.
Any further discussion on the resolution? Okay. The resolution to deny the appeal, FOIA fee appeal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Resolution passes. The appeal of the FOIA fee is denied. Okay. We have other audience participation. Would anyone in the audience wish to address the DDA board for another 4 minutes? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support?
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.